Welcome. You are listening to The Travel Wins, hosted by Pete Kotzbach. This is a weekly interview show about people who travel for work and all the ups and downs that go along with it. Here we go.
Hey, welcome to the Travel Wins podcast. I am super excited to talk to somebody within the travel industry instead of someone that just uses the travel industry. Her name is Grace McBride. She's the founder, CEO, head chief, big boss, top dog of a new company called Lucia. How are you today, Grace?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the time. You know, it's we talked briefly, but I'm really excited to hear kind of your perspective of the travel industry, and you're more
Mhm.
on the luxury end.
I do stray heavily that way. Yes, of course. Love everything travel, but I have a little bit of fun on the luxury side. So,
So what defines luxury travel versus non-luxury travel?
yeah, I think if you ask someone else, they'll probably give you a different answer.
Sure.
But the most probably close to reasonable answer that I'd say is anything that is really typically a five-star hotel is that type of level travel.
Okay.
So if you're five-star, meaning they meet a certain level of standards, meaning they have room service and all these different qualifications. They have concierge desk. Forbes has a travel guide, Forbes five-star travel guide, and that's a really good way to kind of determine what's a five-star hotel.
Good
So
starting
that's
point.
typically, yeah, exactly. That's kind of our starting point, and then it goes up from there. It touches ultra high net worth luxury travel as well, but
Yeah.
that's the broader industry.
Well, you know, I've had two owners of private jet companies on,
Yes,
and that's
they
that's
qualify.
yeah, that's a different level, you know.
Yep, they qualify for sure.
What made you want to go after luxury? I mean, I think it's very smart that you're niche instead of just saying I'm in the travel industry.
Yeah.
You picked a niche.
I'll be honest with you, I ended up in there accidentally. I come from a small business family. We owned a couple florists on Long Island here. And I grew up, sweeping the back floor of a florist and cutting flowers and checking people out. There was no traveling during holidays because we'd be working there. So my story does not start from one of this
Of
kind
course.
of background
Yeah.
at all. It was something I had no idea even existed. I went to college actually and had to get my first passport then just because I got an internship at JetBlue. So it wasn't like I had any experience or knew any better. I'd barely traveled much and I definitely hadn't been out of the country. But I ended up doing an internship with JetBlue my sophomore year. And I was, as many people say in the industry, I got hooked immediately.
Yeah.
And I decided that I just had to work in this industry. I had to make people happy. I had to make people enjoy experiencing the world. And it sounds cheesy, but it's true. And
Sure.
I did that ever since. And I ended up at my university in undergrad. There was a luxury travel agency startup kind of forming with other
Wow.
classmates of mine. And I kind of told them, "Hey, your website stinks. Can I redesign it for you?" And that was like my way in.
You're like, I can help.
Yeah, I was like, "I can help with marketing design." I was a communication major at the time. I was like, "I can help you with this." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, sure." And I just kind of never let them fire me.
There you go. And so how long has Lucia been around?
So Lucia was formed in the middle of the pandemic. We officially launched and
Okay.
started working on it in 2021, late 2021, but we didn't launch it until about August of 2022.
Was that was Lucia built in the sense of you're sitting around going, shoot, I got to do something?
Entirely.
Yeah, because I've heard
Absolutely.
a lot of people that have started companies during the pandemic because they were sitting around going, well, what should I do?
I was quite literally sitting in my parents' backyard, sitting around a fire with my dad, thinking, what the heck am I going to do next?
Yeah.
I didn't want to keep working. I was helping him out at the florist because my previous startup was on hold because he
Yeah.
was also in travel. And I was like, what am I going to do? And so that was where the idea of Lucia came from. We ended up still regrowing and selling our previous company. So it's not even like we
Okay.
were out of a job. We just couldn't really operate it during the pandemic.
But Lucia is an app-based company, right?
Yeah, it's platform based, so there's
Okay.
mobile and desktop, but yeah, absolutely.
How, I, obviously, I'm old. I'm probably older than your parents, but
No, not at all.
no, really. I just had my first granddaughter, so
Oh,
I'm
congratulations. That's so
stoked. But
exciting.
uh, you know, starting an app base, I mean,
Mhm,
it's a real company. Obviously, it's just
mhm.
you get to work remote. You know, I mean, you get to work basically wherever, because it's an app. You can
Mhm.
hire people remote. How does Lucia work? What is the basis of it?
Yeah, so we mostly work with luxury travel advisors. We do work with travelers themselves, some, tour operators and things like that. But for the most part, we actually work specifically with luxury travel advisors. So when you think of travel advisor, I'm not talking about the person sitting in Liberty Travel office or anything,
Yeah.
like mom and pop shop, not that. I'm talking about a really, really highly skilled and trained expert in the luxury travel industry that probably is sitting in her home office
Yeah.
and billing up to $1 to $5 million in travel bookings every year with all of our clients. So it's a really massive industry that we serve, and we help them do all of the back end of their operations. We have a network of almost 100 expert freelancers that are servicing all the back end work for a lot of these travel companies through our platform.
With I've had this talk with many of my business travelers. You know, when 30 years ago, there was no computer, right? So, I mean, you had to have a travel agent to
Right.
book your flight, your hotel. You had to rely on them. And it's kind of like luxury travel's still that way. I mean,
Mhm.
you're not going to hear
Yeah, I would
about.
say it's not out of a need. It's more of a want and a desire to spend your resources the right way. And I
Yeah.
think that's why it's even becoming popular again in everyday travel. Anyone that's doing, anything other than 5 star as well. It's not exclusive anymore the way that for the last 10 years or 15 years it has been to have a travel agent that way. And so a lot of these travel advisors are getting clients calling them saying, "Hey, I have a 1 week off a year because I'm this high executive at this company and I want to spend, X amount of money with my family, 30, 50, $75,000 for this
Right.
trip. How do I allocate all those resources the right way?" Because for a lot of the clients that our customers work with, their most valuable resource isn't their money, it's their
Time.
time. Exactly. And most people that travel probably feel that way, especially if you travel a lot. Time is your most valuable resource. And so a lot of times people use travel advisors, especially in luxury, because they feel like that's the best way of having someone to advise you on what to do with it. The same way you'd have a financial planner.
So you I'm trying to figure out, Lucia, if
Mhm.
there's all these advisors that have these high end connections, maybe I'm a Fiji expert and my friend's
Mhm.
a Japan expert. Are you trying to group them together and then?
Yeah, so it's essentially, let's say I'm a travel agent, Samantha, and I'm booking your travel. I may have 30 other clients that want to travel this summer. My
Sure.
best skill set is talking to you, knowing you really well, and knowing where you want to go. So I'm going to get you on the phone and say, "Hey, I think you need to take your family X, Y, and Z." I'm going to then turn around to Lucia and say, "Hey, I have this client that wants to go to these places. Can you price out the hotels for me, put together the itinerary the way I need it done, and go ahead and book it all and return it back to me in a beautiful itinerary format?" A lot of that still done online, but the
Yeah.
process of doing all the steps still takes a ton of work. And in order for all that to be done for the 30 plus clients I need to talk to that day, it takes a lot of hours.
Yeah,
And so that's why they
absolutely.
use us.
How's it going so far?
It's going great. I mean, we started last year. We raised our pre-seed round of funding last year, and we're about to raise another round of capital soon. We've got about over 300 small businesses using us since our launch, and yeah, it's going well.
It it's I'm curious, like, if you talk to your MBA professors and all
Mhm.
those type of people and go, "Yeah, I'm gonna start this app business, and I'm gonna be able to work from my parents' house or my home or my apartment and talk to people around the world instead of," I mean, 15 years ago, I mean, it's not even a thought.
I mean, I'll talk to someone based in Rwanda, then go
Yeah.
talk to someone based in Japan, and then go talk to someone based in Alaska, all in, 3 hours of each other.
Yeah.
Because we have to onboard so many freelancers from around the world, I'm quite literally talking to people everywhere all at once. And it's a very amazing, very cool part of our job. But it doesn't mean you get much sleep, which is also part of it because you
Yeah.
don't really have an office to go to, you have no boundaries, but it's all right. We love it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm in the same boat, it's like
Yeah.
I get emails on Saturdays and Sundays and nights and mornings, and that's the negative of technology. The positive is you get to get back to them. I don't have to go into an office, but the negative is president of the company contacted me on Sunday morning saying, "Hey, tomorrow morning, make sure you call."
Right.
It's
I will
just-
say though, I get to sit, I get to sit at home this weekend and work from
Yeah.
my parents' beautiful backyard as I'm visiting them this weekend. Then later this week, I'm going to be back in my apartment in New York. And then by the end of the week, I'll be in Dallas to go visit my friends for an engagement party. So between
I'm still
between my
working.
next 7 days, I don't have to miss a day of work. In fact, I'll be working 24/7, and it's not disrupted by my travel plans. And considering I just spent the last 6 months on the road, that's a really good thing.
No, I was going to ask you, how much traveling do you get to do personally?
I definitely mix the two. So I'll take personal trips and blend them into reasons to add business into it and vice versa. If I have to travel for a work conference, I'll add on personal time too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just spent the last 6 months on the road, not even being home at all. And I would say probably at least 50% of my year, definitely more, but like at least 50, probably closer to like 70% of my year I'm on the road. And my family makes fun of me for why am I even paying rent? But other than that,
Especially New
yeah,
York,
I
right?
get to travel all the time.
Yeah. God, that's pretty cool though. That
You have to get really good at packing.
Wow, I was going to say, how do you manage your productivity? Because you're
Right.
always scheduling kind of your own trips, and then you got your business acumen you got to get to.
I used to think when I first started working remotely that I could work and travel all the time and my productivity would be just as good if I didn't change anything. And then I realized that you still have to go through security. You have to spend time at the airport.
Yeah.
There's times on the plane where you don't have service. Then you have to worry about landing, getting your bags, getting to the hotel, and all of a sudden you lost half your day.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're being as productive if you just kind of let the day pass you by. So when I travel, I exclusively get to the airport at least if I'm going early in the morning, and I try to book my flights really early or really late because of my workday. Sometimes it's not possible, but I give it my best shot. And I'll try to spend extra time in the lounge before and after my flight because I have access to the Delta Lounge and some others. And I'll try to spend some time there and be really, really productive. Then obviously I work during the flight, and I'll pick up some slack here and there on the weekends. But it really, more than anything, just made me more productive during the hours I am working. I feel like a lot of people kind of dilly-dally at certain points of the day, and before you realize that you maybe haven't been as crazy productive as you could have been. And so I just take it up a little bit of an intensity notch when I am doing the work.
It's so weird. I just had this talk. The people that travel tend to, kind of organize their time better. Like if I go into an office, I'm there from 8 to 5, and I got all day to get done whatever I need to get done. Whereas, like you just said, it's like, well, okay, I got to get up early, whether it's working out, trying to get a personal workout in,
Of course.
then I got to eat right. Then I got to get to the airport, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, you kill all the time with the Ubers and traffic and rental cars and all that. But you're
Yeah, I would say
being
that.
more effective.
Absolutely. And I would say I learned that honestly from college because, like I said, I was working at that startup when I was there,
Yeah.
and I was managing this crazy class load. And then I'd be, running a $10 million travel business like at night. It was the wildest thing. And, we had a team of 5 people and we're all in college together. So, that doesn't help either. And so, we're trying to manage going out and being social and being kids with all of this work that we're doing. I remember being at graduation and like taking calls from people as they're like, I'm in Greece, I'm stranded, help me rebook a flight. I was like, okay, 1 second, gotta walk across the stage, So that was an interesting part, but it really taught me how to manage my time well so that I didn't have to sacrifice all of the fun time, all of the downtime with family and friends. And I take all of that time really seriously. So if I can just be more productive during the day, I get to spend so much more time with my family and friends.
Sure. I was going to ask you too, coming from a younger person,
Mhm.
what's your take on being able to balance personal life and work life, dating, relationships, family, birthdays? How do you control all that?
Like I said, I take it very seriously to make sure that I don't lose myself in the idea of being an entrepreneur and being a founder and trying to run a company, because it's very easy to put everything to the back burner and say, I can't make it, I work on Lucia. And I feel like so many times I can use that excuse, but it's not a very good one. Like I can make it work usually, and I can make time for everything. So I'm on planes a lot. Let's just say that. I buy a lot of tickets. That's a lot of flights. I
Yeah.
use my points very, very carefully. But I do make sure that I incorporate all of it, and I try to fit in everything. Obviously, you can't do everything. I don't have kids. It's not like I have, a house to maintain or a dog to maintain. So I do have that extra level of freedom.
Yeah.
That
For now. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a boyfriend, and I just visited him while he's finishing up his MBA at Notre Dame. And so I literally was visiting back and forth over the last 6 weeks or so between there and other places I needed to be. So I get to do it all actually, because I have the ability to travel and be remote more. I get to say
Yeah.
yes to things.
It's a good thing and a negative, right? It's like, you don't get to be home for some of the anniversary parties or this or that because you have to be on the road, but conversely, you get to be home more when you're
I
home.
can tell you, I don't ever have like a steady amount of food in the fridge. I can promise you that, like my gym, every time I walk in, they're like, so where have you been the last month? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. I just won't cancel the membership. I feel so bad, because I'm just not going there or doing everyday routine things.
Do you exercise or do anything specifically when you're on the road?
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'll just, especially with going to so many restaurants or eating out or things like that, you just have to. Otherwise, for me, it's like keeping my mental sanity,
Yeah.
some resemblance of normalcy in my life is that, and a few other things, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's just go, I mean, I find it depends on the city, but I'll just go for a walk,
Oh, it's the best.
and that way at least I'm looking around, getting to see things you don't typically see just driving in a car, but I'm
Yeah.
also getting a little bit of exercise. So it kind of helps.
No,
Like if
it's
I'm
like
in a downtown area like Toronto or something, it's nice.
No, that's helpful. I also love being able to travel in most of the times I'm going to cities, right? So a lot of times I'll enjoy being able to go to all the parks or things like that. That's, it's a lot more, maybe I'm not seeing the city per se, but at least I'm getting outside. I'm near nature. I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
do something.
myself around, ground myself back to earth a little bit, that type of thing.
Do luxury travelers do that as well? Do you find, or is it just all structured?
I think that's why a lot of them, and when I say them, I mean those luxury travelers,
Yeah.
whether they're business or leisure, I think they take a lot of their travel so seriously on where they stay and what partners they choose to spend their money with.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people that are very specific about the hotel rooms that they're in, about the gyms that they have at the hotel,
Yeah.
or if it's on a beach, or if it's, they're very particular about what seat on the plane that they're sitting in. Not because,
Yeah.
they're they're not crazy. They just spend so much time there that it matters to them now. And same for me. Like I'll book my seat immediately when I book my flight. I'll choose my seat so that I know, all right, at least I know I have the leg room I want. I have the aisle that I want.
Right.
Just spend so much time there. You have to.
It's interesting because I can always tell. I just came back from Nashville a week ago, and you can always tell kind of who travels a lot and who's just kind of walking around. And I'm like, I know exactly where I'm going. I know I'm not like you. I know where I want to sit. I know the best way to walk to the rental car places, and pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would even say there's at the Atlanta airport in the Delta terminal. I think it's D.
It's a huge
All
airport.
of the travel people out there that know this lounge are going to make fun of me if I'm wrong about the terminal, but in the Delta Terminal D, there was a line recently for the last 6 months or so that was 30 people along at all times in order to just get into this lounge. And it caused such a problem with business travelers who are all these random people are just trying to get in. I need to just get lunch. I planned on this for my lunch, and I do that. I plan my meal from when I'm going to be at the lounge so that I don't have to, buy extra food, whatever. And so they literally added a grab and go station for all of the business travelers and people who are traveling a lot. to just grab what food they want and the drinks that they want to go if they want to. And so if you've got that quick layover, which I always book the shortest one possible,
Okay.
I can grab everything I want and not ever be on that line. So it's just funny. You see things like that, and I'm like, I know why they did that.
Yeah. You're like, thank you.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like when I used to fly into Denver a lot,
Mhm.
and they had the two big check-ins, and then they had one kind of in the backside.
Mhm.
And so like I'd always walk there because when you'd walk in, you'd see the lines. You're like, oh, I'm gonna go to the back. I'm going to the third one.
They have them at LaGuardia too now. They have I just fly a lot of Delta because you got to pick an airline unless
Yeah.
you're wasting your miles at some point. And on the second floor of the LaGuardia terminal, they added like a private little two station.
Yeah.
Now I'm telling everyone this. Oh no, it's gonna be a massive line in LaGuardia. But there's a 2-stop check-in line for anyone that knows about it, and I just kind of sneak over there when I am checking a bag. Not that I usually do, but at least I know it's there.
I'll tell you this, but I won't do it. But I can blur out the LaGuardia part.
Honestly,
And yes.
maybe people shouldn't know about it. Then it'll cut the other lines down. Not that I even check a bag though. Honestly,
You'll be all right.
I'll survive.
Yeah. You'll be fine. How do you see travel coming out of the pandemic? I mean, is luxury travel up right now?
So with the travel advisors that we work with, and we work with quite a big array of different types of advisors, where they're based, what their business looks like.
Yeah.
They have hit their 2022 numbers already.
Nice.
It's insane. We're about to have the craziest summer that we've ever seen. And last summer in Europe, because usually summer equals Europe, right?
Yeah.
At least in the luxury travel segment. And oh my goodness, everything's been booked for months, yes, but just it's like a nothing I've ever seen before.
Well,
truly.
that's good news though.
Yeah. So if there's any travelers out there that are looking to go somewhere over this summer, I highly recommend a less popular city than Rome and Florence and Paris, because it's going to be a little packed, honestly.
I think that I tend to travel to places off season anyways. It's just how I do it.
Shoulder season, it's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, like I go to Hawaii for work, right? So,
Mhm.
but I go like in April, and then I'll go in October.
Mhm.
So I forget. I don't go during Christmas time, and I don't go during the summer.
No. And it's the best way to do it if you can. I would say even the shoulder season. So like if you're going to Greece, they open in like early May, and it's still warm there. It's just not packed. And you can go in April, May, and have a great time in all the Greek islands, and you won't be stumbling over people, which is really nice.
What's your favorite place that you've been to?
I would say, have you heard of the Azores Islands?
Yes.
It is one of the most magnificent places I've quite literally ever been to. It's a part of Portugal, but it feels like the movie Avatar.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. One island. It's like a cluster of islands halfway between the US and Europe, essentially, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, all by themselves. And each island is an entirely different just geography and everything, from the fauna to the temperature, etc. And one island is like this massive volcanic mountainous island, and the next one's completely flat for farming. And they're like next to each other, and everything around it just seems so naturally magnificent and grandiose, the way that I think Hawaii mirrors that a lot, but it's like in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know. It just feels like the movie Avatar.
I hear you. Yeah. I always tell people Hawaii, everyone thinks of Hawaii as Oahu and Waikiki Beach.
Right.
I go, well, Maui's completely different. And then the Big Island is the Big Island. I mean, we got a dry side and the wet side. And then Kauai is, an emerald. I went to Kauai my first time, and we got 26 inches of rain in 24 hours.
Holy cow.
So I never saw the island because everything was flooded. They were helicoptering people off the homes. And like all the roads were closed, all the waterfalls were closed. They wouldn't let you go anywhere.
Of course.
And I was just like, okay, now I know why it's the wet island.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like there's so many amazing places to visit. I feel like people always think of like the top 5, Hawaii being one of them. It's one of the main places that a lot of US travelers go to. There's just so many amazing gems out there that just no one even knows about.
What's on your top 5 bucket list?
I really want to do Machu Picchu. I think right now it's still closed, so I don't think I can hike that anytime soon. I know it was closed for a little bit, but so Peru, Machu Picchu is a big part of that. Switzerland was on my list for a while. I did just check that off my list and got to go to a very little town in the middle of Switzerland, drive through. I haven't been to Japan. That's just such a top one for me. And then I'd probably say Rwanda is up there as well. I have a very everywhere is the answer. But those are probably my top favorite.
You've picked just about every continent so far, so yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Japan's a sore spot for me. I had
really
both my adult daughters, their boyfriend, one's now my son-in-law, and my wife. We had a trip for all of us to meet in Tokyo in April of 2020. And the world shut down in March of 2020.
Yeah.
So, and now my youngest has a baby, so she's not going to be traveling too much. And
that's so tough.
Yeah, but Tokyo, I mean, and then Kyoto, we were going to go to a couple. We're still planning on going, but just got to reschedule. But that's our bucket list.
I was supposed to. I think at the time I know I had booked my parents for. I think it was like their 25th wedding anniversary or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been. I booked them 2 tickets to Italy because they'd never been before, and they were supposed to go like the last week of April, and just never went. I was like, okay, I'll take those back and go refund them.
I know, we were like, it was February, and they were starting to talk about the shutdowns and all that, and I'm like, we're effing going. We're going.
Did you cancel it, or did you just wait till they got canceled?
We waited till they got canceled because we were like, we're going. I don't care, we're going. It was like March. I'm in California, and they shut down California. I'm like, we're going. They're still letting people in. We're going.
As long as they let us go, we'll come in. I remember I was in New York at the time when everything was happening, and so you can imagine like just the hysteria. New York got hit pretty hard, pretty fast, and at the time I was just trying to like ignore it, I guess, just mentally. I wasn't going outside my apartment because I was so busy working, and I don't have a TV in my apartment because I don't really watch TV, and so I wasn't up to date on the news.
Yeah.
It was like purposely being oblivious to like, I'm sure it'll blow over. And I was staying in my apartment. And then finally I realized like, no, this is bad. And all of a sudden just all the cancellations of all the flights started coming through and everything. It was, it was brutal. That was a rough month of working in travel.
I was going to say, it didn't scare you away because obviously
it was out of our control. I mean, there's nothing we could have done to prepare for that. I mean, I don't even think a lot of, yes, I was very young at the time. I still am, but I would say even the seasoned professionals were in no way prepared.
No.
So
I still remember that was a weird time. I mean,
very.
Because of my day job, when they shut down the stores, well, I only got paid. I'm 100% commission, so I only got paid when they deliver. Well, they can't deliver if the stores aren't open. It's like, oh, I'm making no money then. It's like, 2 weeks, that'll be fine.
And that's how the travel advisors get paid. And then we got paid by the travel advisors.
Yeah.
And so we ended up just telling everyone, don't worry, we canceled your subscription for you. Like, you don't have to worry about it.
Is that how Lucia set up? Is Lucia set up on a subscription?
Partially, yeah. So they pay a subscription, have access to all the freelancers, and we call them co-pilots on the platform.
Yeah. That's cool.
And then anyone that places a request or a contract on the platform, we take a commission of it.
So I'm trying to think, if I'm a high net worth person, I have an assistant, and that assistant more than likely is going to be contacting you.
Correct.
Is that correct? I mean,
and we have plenty of people doing it. And so that assistant is managing the travel aspect of their life, making sure that their financial planner is ready to go. They're kind of coordinating all of the experts in their circle who are running they call them their principal's life, whether it's travel, food, business, etc.
Yeah.
They're just specifics conducting all of these, moving parts.
That's I'm trying to be politically correct. That could be very challenging because some of these people are very specific of what they want, and
I think that would be an understatement for sure.
Yeah, okay.
But I would say more than often, they're incredibly gracious.
Yeah,
And uh, at least most of the people I worked with were incredibly gracious and yes, demanding in what they want and expecting people to follow through.
yeah,
I would say any high intensity job though fulfills those requirements, you know, expecting a lot and expecting it to be done right.
sure.
But they made sure that you were compensated and made sure that you were respected, at least for most of the people that I worked
Yeah, my daughter, while she was in college and then just after in California, worked for a very, very well-known family of girls with the
with.
initials of KK, and was an assistant for two of them.
Mhm.
So I know it's like they don't do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very specific. That's all I can tell you.
Specific is a great way to put it. Yeah. I would say we would only work with the individuals that were very, very, like I said, very gracious, very
Yeah,
understanding. And we fired clients before because like I don't need this. At the time, especially being you know, I'm 25 now. Over the last 5 years that I've been doing, 6 years that I've been doing this,
yeah.
I don't need to spend time being yelled at. Like, you know, it's not fun. I don't need to. I can go find some other amazing clients to work with. So I feel really badly for like some of the assistants. I hear about like assistants that are just go through hell. It's crazy to me that they just spend their whole life living in their world.
Well, yeah. I mean, they have. I mean, the one person that she worked for is an admitted OCD person.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Admitted, like I mean, she wants the carpet vacuumed the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
mean, that's just an her. So I
yeah,
can
it's
imagine
just
being
so
her travel
challenging.
advisor.
I can't imagine. Well, I would say I think a lot of travel advisors now also kind of probably maybe 10 years ago, even, you know, there was a lot of order taking, whereas now in the industry, it's a lot more about like being the expert and advising. So
Yeah,
maybe when you think of travel agent, there's been kind of this like renaissance in the industry of like calling everyone travel advisor. Goal being really just to like acknowledge the movement of no longer being order takers, but rather being like experts in
true
certain.
advisors. Yeah,
Exactly. And that kind of lets you set some boundaries, be really good at what you do and not apologize for it and charge accordingly, charging actual rates, you know,
sure.
making the amount of money you think you deserve. And honestly, a lot of people in the industry respect that even more because they know that you are ready to take a stand and, you know, stand up for your expertise and your knowledge and all that.
So the travel your co-pilots,
Mhm.
they I'm trying to figure out if I'm a high net worth person, not high net worth person, I'm contacting my travel advisor, but and let's say I go, hey, I want to go to Bali, and that person doesn't know much. They can go through the Lucia app and find someone that's better at Bali. Or
Exactly.
okay,
And you might be thinking, well, why wouldn't they just Google it? They absolutely can, but when you're spending 30 grand on a villa
yeah,
for 4 nights, Google isn't gonna help you.
yeah,
You have to see the property, you have to know how big it actually is, if it has his and her sinks, if the view is as good as the photos claim they are.
right.
So, you have to have
It's a
an
different
actual.
level.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas you can absolutely find most of the regular day-to-day travel online. And you can here too. Don't get me wrong. You can book all your own travel. But if you're going to spend a certain level of time or money on your travel to this extent, you're going to want to make sure you actually like it when you get there.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's hard to explain to somebody. It's a different level.
Yeah. I
It's just a
mean,
different level.
when you're flying a family of 5 in first class and each ticket's $2,000 each way,
Yeah,
I mean, that's most people's budgets for
yeah,
that's more than most people's budgets for a vacation. And sometimes it gets warped in my head, like what's normal, what's not in terms of prices,
yeah.
because it's just so out of this world.
Well, I mean, and I told you before, I've interviewed a couple of the private jet ownerships
Mhm.
companies. And then I interviewed one guy who owns a business and he has a private jet. And he explained it to me. He goes, I don't like talking about it because I don't want to come off as, he goes, but my time is valuable. He goes, oh, when I go into Walmart, it's not like there's a big airport in Bentonville, so I need a small plane anyways. And then I can go from Bentonville, which is Walmart headquarters, and go to New York City, and I can go to Cleveland and then come back. Like it's all time. It's all time management. And so when
It's so useful.
when that guy travels, I'm sure he's very similarly.
Yeah, and I'm sure they know what meal making sure that he's fed on the flight. And, again, most people are like, there's still no way that that's actually saving you money, right? If you're doing that. But for a lot of these high net worth individuals, that amount of time is like much, much more money than you could even possibly like conceive just thinking about. And it's, those 3 hours that you're spending in the airport, they could have had 3 more meetings or
I was gonna say,
met another client,
it's interesting, people talk about, oh, I make $10 an hour. I want to make $15 an hour, $20 an hour. If they're netting out 20,000 an hour, that 3 hours worth 60 grand to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend 60 grand standing in an airport waiting for my flight because it's delayed. I want to get on my plane and go.
Right. So when some new people come to our platform and they see, travel expert for $50 an hour, some people initially balk at that because they're like $50.
Really?
Like, that's not even a low to me. Just again, prices are a little bit warped in my head, but like for someone who has traveled probably for the last 10 years, has a wealth of knowledge and knows everything about everything from private jets to touring to backdoor entrances to things, that you can't get online or without knowing
concierge services and
all of it. Yeah. I mean, restaurants you can't find online, things like that. They're worth it, and they're worth even more than that. And so some people balk at it when they come online to our platform, but I wouldn't even say we're near the realm of, expensive, honestly, to a lot of these business owners and businesses.
Yeah, it's I have a friend who's a high net worth concierge in Vegas. He flies people in.
It's a different world.
I mean, they come to our booth when I work at the rodeo, and it's like, hey, whatever this group wants, just put it on my tab. And you're like, really? You're like, 15,
I would say the first time I went, the first time as a travel advisor, they take you on these trips called FAM trips. They're familiarization trips, I guess. And you're basically flown to X destination. You stay in the hotel that they're having you come see, and you're with probably a couple other travel advisors. You get obviously your own rooms, probably the best suites in the hotel. Unless it's like peak season, then you get a normal room. And then they're feeding you to the best restaurants in the city because they want you to see it and experience it so you can tell your clients about it. And they'll take you on these crazy, amazing secret access tours that you can't get otherwise. And then they fly you home. And it's like, I just spent 4 days as a 19-year-old going to the best restaurants in Paris, staying at the La Bristol. I didn't even know that was a real thing. Richard Gere sitting in the corner and some other famous person sitting in the other corner. And you're like, where am I? And it's just crazy, crazy, experience. So that was one of my first experiences as a travel advisor, was like being there for free.
It's so weird because the MGM in Las Vegas, they have suites at the top, right? And then suites on the side. I stayed there every year for the last 13 years for the rodeo. The suites at the top are 2 floors, the bedrooms upstairs, kitchen, the whole thing. They have a butler, all that. Then they have suites on the strip that have the jacuzzis out on the ledge that no one ever sees unless you go there, and have their own little cabanas and all that. And you're like, man, that's living it. And then I don't know if there's a thing called the mansion at the MGM.
Seen it.
Huh?
Haven't even seen it.
Google it.
Spent a lot of time in Vegas, so I'll go Google it.
There's no sign. There's no entrance. There's no, like, our boss got moved there. He was in one of the suites upstairs and they needed it. So they moved him to the mansion for a couple of days. And he's like, oh, you guys got to come see this. He was in the small suite. I think it was 2,400 square feet.
Oh my gosh.
And an indoor pool that goes to the outdoor pool, their own private pool, butler 24/7, it's just like fresh cut flowers in every room every morning. You're like, oh, okay, this is like different level.
Have you ever stayed at the Wynn or seen the Wynn?
Yes.
I have a dear friend that works there and is pretty high up in their like concierge division, I'll call it
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most high profile hotels. They house, with the F1 race coming later this year, like
Yeah.
I assume most of them will be staying there. And like plenty of celebrities do all their residencies and stay there and that. And so you see just there's so many
They have their own
suites,
golf course.
villas. Yeah, like there's a whole other access there. So, but you wouldn't know about the mansion, you wouldn't know about these villas, you wouldn't know about the
Yeah.
golf course necessarily from the internet. And a lot of even these types of experiences, it'll say just call this number. Like there's no rate online. It's
No.
a negotiation. It's like you're the same way you negotiate real estate. Like you can negotiate some of these rates if it's a high profile room, things like that. So you need someone that can handle that, work with the supplier to make
Yeah.
sure that they're greeted by the GM when you arrive and you get all of the perks of being in that situation, et cetera.
From my understanding, that the mansion, there's no rates. Like they comp you the room or they don't.
Yeah.
Because you're going to spend that much in gambling when you're there, that it pays for itself. But there's no rates.
This is why this industry is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the money for me, honestly. It's just about like seeing all of these different parts of the world in such a different way. And it's just very interesting to experience and see. And
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. And I just didn't even know it existed, growing up and to come into this world. I can't act like, I'm so unfamiliar with it because, now at this point, I do know most of, if not all, the high end properties and where they are and who works there, et cetera. But I can't walk around like I've never seen them or anything like that either,
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you, yeah, I get asked a lot of times, how do you get a job that travel? Because a lot of people, see my job and they're like, oh, you're so lucky. And I'm like, well, I mean, I am. I mean, I'm gone a lot, so I have to pay the price. But, as a younger person, I'm sure a lot of your college friends are like, oh, what? Greece, this, that.
I think I was the most, when I stopped actually traveling as a travel advisor and switched into my new role as Lucia, the one thing I missed was being able to travel as extravagantly on those fam trips.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people look at travel advisors like Instagrams and TikToks and things, and they'll see it and be like, are you working? All I see is your out of office email reminder and you're in another country. And it's so true. So true. I would say for anyone that is trying to get into travel, being a travel advisor is a great way to start. However, you typically, it's incredibly hard to build a book of business unless you have a network, honestly. That's just
How to start.
So unless you feel like you can come up with a network of people to buy travel with you, working at a hotel concierge is a great way. Working at, like tour companies or like DMC companies that manage on the ground operations for a certain destination. Those are really great ways to kind of like learn more about the industry that could push you into that part of it.
I always tell people, if you really want to travel, you'll figure it out.
If you really want to travel, there's a million ways to do it.
Yeah. I met a
Go
couple,
look for it.
God, this was like 3 years ago on the show. They were nomads. They was a husband and wife, and they were just traveling. And an island in the, I forget where it was at. It was down in one of the Indonesian islands, and they had a tsunami. And so what they went, that the Office of Tourism went out to bloggers and all these people and paid for them to come stay at their island and then vlog and do viral clips. So they got paid for a month by the country to go stay on this Bali type Indonesian island and got paid to do it and just release content showing
There's
open.
So many ways as even especially in the creator economy, there's so many ways to just do it with very little barrier to entry. I mean, of course, like the actual cost of travel is expensive, but if you like, even if you have a couple thousand, not like 10,000, 20,000, but even just a couple thousand of like your friends, you can still reach out to hotels and things, even in your area, and offer yourself as a content creator, either to post on your story or your profile, but even more so coming up with like content for them. So like
Yeah.
saying like, if you host me at your hotel, I'll do X, Y, and Z. I will say hotels are becoming less and less likely
Open
to
to
do
that.
it
Yeah.
because it's so overpopulated now that they have so many people wanting to do it. But if you can get creative, there's so many ways
Find
to.
your, I mean, Jeff Bradford will be happy I mentioned this. Yeah. He came out of the army and retired,
Mhm.
and, he goes out to people that make alcohol, whether it's wine, tequila, vodka, any kind of spirits. And he goes and does a video blog on it. And now he's done so well that they're paying for him to come out. So he
Right.
just went to Switzerland where they make absinthe.
Hmm.
And so, but part of their deal was that they want the content that they can use
Right.
on their own
That they can
platform.
use it.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're okay with that, and that's usually part of the agreement, it's such a great way to do it. Like you can
Yeah.
go to Napa, you can go to South Africa,
Oh,
you
he just went to Scotland and took a class in whiskey.
yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah. So like he got to spend a few months in Scotland paid for doing something he enjoys. So
There's a company called Journey as well that does like help
yeah.
with creators like doing all of that.
Journey with
And
no
it's
E,
just
right?
free. JERNE.
Yeah. And E. Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different company though.
Yeah. Was there maybe there's so many more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a ton of them. And it's like just help you be a creator in this space.
What do you have you done like a 5-year projection of Lucia? What does it
Yeah,
look like?
I have to.
I know.
Of course. I would
Put that
say
MBA to use.
I know, right? So formal of me. I would say we are focusing on trying to make sure that we integrate technology the right way, and making sure that we not just stay relevant in
Yeah.
travel, but try to push it forward because this industry is known for being behind for a lot of years. And so we're just trying to push the envelope on some of the things that we're going to be doing in the future. And hopefully industry doesn't push back too hard.
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, travel agents. I mean, it was for anybody your age. If you went
Mhm.
back 20 years ago, that's how you traveled. I mean, there
Right.
was no internet. So if you wanted to go to Italy, and I've never been to Italy, I go to the Yellow Pages, whatever, look up travel agents, say, hey, have you ever been to Italy? What do you know about it? Oh yeah, great. I got a great hotel package. So I could see them fighting it
Yeah.
because
But there is a new wave
yeah,
of people my age that are starting to come into the industry that are saying, oh, hey, we can use
but
AI,
still, yeah.
with this. We can travel and work at the same time. We don't need to return home ever. We could just
But
keep going.
yeah, I mean, it's a totally different. My I get this my youngest daughter who just had the baby. She hasn't worked in 2 years. They've worked out of their house and
Yeah.
working off their computer, NFTs and drawings and this and that. And so that's where I think the workforce has changed because I told her I was just there a couple weeks ago. You should be the assistant manager of the department store right now. Hoping to become a manager or general manager and moving up. That person's not there anymore. That person figured out how not to do that job. So it's interesting that the whole thing is kind of people like you're the same
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And coming out of college, it was like I did an internship at a big corporation, and I was like, I cannot imagine
Every day.
doing this. I can't sit here and fry my brain. I felt like that was how
Yeah.
I felt during the internship. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so I was like, I have to be entrepreneurial. I have to get out of this chair and like actually live my life and not feel like spent all of my days in a cubicle.
But and this little device right here is what allows you to feel that way. I mean,
Absolutely. And my, you know, all the AirPods, of course. Doesn't
yeah, yeah.
matter if I'm about to take off on the plane, you got to finish the meetings and all those things. Like it doesn't matter where you are. You can take calls, you can handle emails. It's so much easier.
It-
So
yeah.
I don't need to be at a desk.
I think that's the beauty of it. I always tell people technology it can be really good and it can be really bad. It's like it is whatever you make out of it.
Yeah, and I will say most people probably think when they see me, you're attached to your technology, your phone, your laptop, etc. But I'm the first person to put it down when I'm finally done working, and I'll spend really good quality time with my friends or family, or at the restaurant I'm at, or at the concert I'm listening to. I'm like, I'll put my phone away and I won't look at it at all. So
I think that's
I'll be really good about that.
I think that's getting back to productivity, right? Like you have your up times, and then you're like, when you have your downtime, I'm down. Like,
yeah. And otherwise you can't recharge. Otherwise you're just constantly going.
Yeah.
I remember my mom works at a bank, and she was telling me how now that she's working from home, she's spending like her whole days working until like 8 p.m. because there was no like
there's
time
no one
to
telling
leave
you.
the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one telling her to go home.
Yeah.
You didn't see all your colleagues leave work around you. Like the Slack notifications turned gray. So she's like still working, and I'm like, I guess we'll eat dinner without you, you know? So it was just very strange at that time.
Yeah.
And I have to be good about it. Otherwise I'll spend all of my days working, and then you don't get to recharge.
Yeah. That's really smart to learn at a young age.
Trying, you know, it's otherwise, and also just comes from a lot of traveling. Like I think
Yeah.
traveling all the time accelerates a lot of those learnings that you pick up on, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, well, and for me, when I travel, there's times when I go, you know what, I should be working on the podcast, or I should be working on this hat order or whatever. I'm turning it off and watch a movie. Yeah.
I joke with my boyfriend sometimes. He's like, you know, is the Wi-Fi gonna work on the plane today?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
It
And
did. I just came back from Nashville and it didn't work. I'm like, it was
well,
spot
there
on.
are times it actually doesn't work, and then there's other times where I just say it didn't work, and then really I just didn't want it. I didn't want to work, and so I said the Wi-Fi doesn't work. I don't do it too often, but you know, you got to make it look reasonable. But meanwhile, I'm the boss. Like, who am I telling this to? You know, but sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't work, and you know, I make up for it. Don't get me wrong, I work plenty of hours, but sometimes you just need the break too, and especially those little puddle hopper flights where you only get like 30 minutes of service.
Actual air, yeah. Oh yeah, you know, come back literally like, well, we just had a lot of thunderstorms coming back from Nashville to LA, and I was like, I'm texting my wife, and I'm like, I don't know, you know, all of a sudden it would just turn off, and then it would turn back on, and then turn back off, and I'm like, well, forget the movie and all that. It's like, well, I'm just turning it off, and I'll see you in a couple hours.
Exactly. I'll bring a little notebook on the plane too, so that if I really want to work, but I don't want to really answer any questions, usually, I'll just do work that way, you know, the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's one tip for you. Here's Don Wildman, who lives in New York, actually. He's the guy. He does a lot of History Channel TV shows. He's the host, and so like he does the underground museums around the world, and
cool.
underground cities that were there. And it's the best training tip I've ever heard about relationships. Before he leaves, because he goes for like a month, and then they'll film, and then he comes back. He writes a handwritten letter to his wife and mails it from the airport. That he's, you know, so he lives in New York. So the next day when he's gone, she gets a letter in the mail, a love letter, like a handwritten. He goes, not an email, it's not a text, it's a handwritten love letter.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I love that. I do that at hotels when I leave a hotel, especially if it's with a supplier I know or a hotel manager I know. I'll leave a little.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Just, I don't know. It's distinctive. No one does it anymore. It's not like you need to do it for everything, but.
No, but when you do, it means something to them. Yeah. What's the best way for my listeners? I don't want to take up any more of your time. What's the best way for my listeners to follow up with Lucia?
I would love it if everyone follows along. We have a Instagram account that everyone can follow along, just like the fun details and all the fun stuff. And that's the Lucia app handle. So at the Lucia app. Or you can follow along to mine as well, which we post pretty much all the behind the scenes content as well. And that's my name, Grace McBride. So either there on Instagram, or you can follow along on our website, which is letslucia.com.
I always thought for a while, until I met you and started, I was like, that's Let's Lucia. That's kind of cool. Like, I get it. It's like,
yeah, it's, I don't know, like Let's Lucia. Let's make it, you know, make it a verb out of it. Just instead of saying use Lucia, Let's Lucia.
I liked it. So I'll make sure to put that on my website and have all the links and all that, and hopefully we'll get some. Now, who's your are you trying to get more travel advisors or the actual client, the high-end clients?
If anyone's listening to this and they want to work with a travel advisor, I will pair you with some of the best in the world. So our
Okay.
clients are travel advisors. But if you're a traveler and you just want to be in the network, you want to chat, you want to know who to work with, I pass along a lot of business of
Okay.
travelers to advisors that I know very well.
So that helps the advisor stay nice to you.
Oh yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, they should, right?
No, yeah, it's a very close-knit network. So luckily everyone's good friends.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
And I like hearing about the high-end travel stuff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
You too. Thanks, Grace.